Welcome to Cruelty Podcast. This is Lillian, and with me is Willow.
Hello.
Hello. It's a new month.
It is a new month.
That means it's a new theme. You want to tell them what that theme is?
It is murder for hire.
That's right. And today, y'all, I'm bringing you the weirdest fucking case I've ever researched. Not counting the Maris Monday stuff, obviously. I don't think I can compete with the Monkey Man of New Delhi. That's pretty weird. That was a monkey who wore a metal hat.
This is
Three magic
Cruelty,
buttons on its
a
shirt.
true crime podcast where best friends and next door neighbors, Willow and Lily,
So today,
spill the tea on murder, mysteries, and
our
other
case
things
comes
that
to
go
us
bump
from
in the night.
Manaus, Brazil.
So get your favorite
Our case
teacup
follows
ready.
TV
Let's
personality
get into
Wallace
it.
Souza, who was on Brazilian TV from 1989 to 2009. He was best known for his reality TV show called Canal Livre. Wallace Souza was born in Manaus on August 12th, 1958. He came from meager beginnings, but there's not like a whole lot about his past available online. He originally served as a police officer before being fired for a fraud scheme and for stealing gasoline. This is relevant for later. Wallace said that he was falsely accused. Sure he did. He went on to be a reporter for a few years before starting the show called Canal Livre in 1989. Translated, the name meant free channel. And it was a strange, variety style show. There would be beauty queens and dance acts, musical numbers and games. There were puppets. There was a recurring character that was an angry man who threw pies.
Was the angry man a real man or a puppet?
He was a man.
Oh, okay.
Like a real one, not a
real
Muppet
one.
man.
And threw real pies.
And he threw real pies.
Love
Yes.
that. Okay.
Yes. There were charity events where guests came onto the show and they would just ask for things. Like this was, I don't know if it still is, a very poor area in Brazil. People they were starving. And the government was corrupt, the police were corrupt. So they'd come on there and be like, I can't pay my rent. Or
So throw pies. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They're starving people. So let's throw pies.
Yeah, it's
Sorry.
It's a lot, but they'd be like, help me, my baby is dying. And, and then Wallace would just give them money.
Oh, well, that's nice.
I guess. I
But
don't
it
think
could-
you should have to go on TV and humiliate yourself for
No.
basic human needs.
But, I mean, look at
But that's
TikTok
all of
right
reality
now.
TV.
Look at TikTok.
No, I don't want to look at TikTok. It freaks me the fuck out. I don't understand it because I'm old.
Yeah.
Okay. That being said, I do look at TikTok. I don't know what I'm looking at.
I'm on Instagram Reels, and I get my TikTok through there.
I do Facebook Reels or Instagram Reels mostly. I do look at TikTok sometimes, but I fucked up my algorithm and all it shows me is guinea pigs. So.
Aww.
Well, you know what? When you're stoned and sad, guinea pigs make you happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I almost said chupacabras.
No. Willow doesn't
I
know
meant
this, but on the
capybaras.
cryptid fuckability scale, chupacabra comes in at 0.
I meant capybara.
We don't fuck chupacabras. The highest rated on the fuckability scale still is Mothman with
Oh,
a
yeah.
7. With a 7.
7?
I'd fuck Mothman.
But only 7?
Yeah.
Nobody's a 10?
He doesn't really have a head.
There's not a single 10?
Oh, no. Cryptids, for the most part, are stinky, hairy, slimy, farty smelling, so you can't really...
Fuck them.
Well, you could, but
Not well.
not what we want to do. Okay. So, yeah, it was... while the variety show style was popular for being unpredictable, it was better known for its investigative journalism. Like I'm saying, this show's all over the place.
Yeah.
Wallace had lost his brother Ulysses to drug addiction and was committed to fighting the drug problem in Manaus and used his TV show to do it. Canal Livre was one of the most popular Brazilian TV shows at the time, and the true crime segment was kind of like an America's Most Wanted, but more hardcore. It was dedicated to fighting crime. They featured stories about murders, kidnappings, and drug rings. But what set Canal Livre apart was that Wallace would take his film crew to the scene of the crime, and sometimes they were filming as the crimes were happening.
Oh, shit.
So, trigger warning, if you go looking for, this footage... When I say it's grisly and nasty, I mean it. They're showing dead bodies. They're showing people dying actively. And we'll get into that a little bit more later. So don't go look at this. It's not good for your brain. I looked at one for research purposes, and I am sorry I did. So I'm just saying that. Yeah. The show really centered around murders, and often Wallace and his crew would show up at a murder scene way before the police. Usually the victims were drug dealers or other violent criminals. Not saying that makes it better in any way, just stating the facts because they're important. The film crew would shoot the dead, showing the victims brutalized and bloody. As a result, the ratings skyrocketed to the top. The variety style part of the show remained as, it was still around, but as the true crime segments became more popular, it was clear that the viewers' main focus of the show had shifted to crime fighting and investigative journalism. The ratings would literally dip in real time when it was the silly stuff was on. Part of the popularity of the show was that people saw Wallace as a hero. They saw him as doing more to spread awareness of crime and violence than the police were. Manaus at the time was riddled with crime from cartels and drug dealers and violent gangs. The police were corrupt, and so were the politicians. Canal Livre was the harsh light of truth on what the people who lived their daily lives faced. As a result, the people felt like Wallace was on their side. People began to see Canal Livre as an extension of the police. In fact, citizens of Manaus would call the TV studio to report a crime before they would call the police station. And I think that's just fucking bananas. But I get it. In one incident, a man was holding an entire family hostage. This included a young child. And when police tried to negotiate with him, he refused to deal with them because he was afraid they would just shoot him. He told police the only person he would talk to was Wallace. Even though it was the middle of the night, Wallace got up, got dressed, gathered his camera crew, and went to talk to the man who had taken the family hostage. And Wallace was able to negotiate with the man by offering himself as a trade. Wow. The family was released and Wallace took their place. The man put Wallace in a car at gunpoint. They drove around for a while, and when it became clear that the police were no longer interested in pursuing him, and let's just pause. That don't happen here. They will not ever stop chasing your ass, okay? Yeah. But over there, they were just like, well, I guess he's gone. Bye.
Yeah. The family's safe.
I didn't care about that either. Yeah. So he let Wallace go. Wallace didn't go to the police station after his release to make a statement. He went to the TV studio to tell his harrowing story to his beloved audience.
That checks, though.
It does check. Wallace saw the show's popularity as a leg up. He wasn't content with just the fame and wealth from the TV show. He wanted to get into politics, because of course he did, to make real changes. He was elected as a state official during the height of Canal Livre's popularity in 1998. He used his platform to call out politicians and police for letting criminals run rampant through the city. He said that only a bullet and a grave could stop those violent drug dealers. He was making threats, and he was not making friends. He took over leadership of the Social Christian Party a while later and was elected to the Legislative Assembly as a state representative. During that particular election, Wallace Souza received the highest number of votes in Brazil's history. That's how popular this guy was. In 2003, he was elected to the parliamentary after once again breaking voter turnout records. He wasn't done. He'd also set his sights on Secretary of Security. And he probably would have won if it weren't for what happened in 2009. Wallace continued to have an amazing career in both politics and on his show. But 2009 came along, and a drug dealer and former police officer named Moacir Jorge da Costa, oh yes, pat myself on the back, or as he was known by his associates as simply Moa, was arrested. Moa had been fired for suspicion of being involved in up to 9 homicides while serving as a police officer.
Holy shit.
Mm-hmm. This was to be an open and shut case. Moa had been caught dealing drugs. However, when served with an arrest warrant, he had a very interesting story to tell, clearly to try and save himself from being put in general population as a former cop in a Brazilian fucking prison. Look, y'all, our prisons aren't nice. Brazilian prisons are worse. They're violent and terrifying. Moa offered to give up his boss to the police if they spared him from general pop. In exchange for getting a private cell, Moa said he would give up the man who was his boss. Moa claimed this man had him carry out hits and run drugs for him. The man was well known, a beloved celebrity, a politician.
Wallace.
The police agreed to the deal, and Moa named Wallace Souza as his boss. Moa said the reason that Wallace and his TV crew were always the first to a murder scene was because these were hits ordered by Wallace that Moa carried out.
Wallace.
Hold on. This is going to go in a lot of ways.
Okay.
In a lot of directions.
Okay.
There's a twist at the end.
Keeping up, kind of.
Why? Why would he do this?
Yeah.
Why would this man who had seemingly dedicated his life to eradicating crime do this?
Mm-hmm.
The answer was simple. Wallace noticed that every time they went to the scene of a violent murder, the ratings would jump a lot. So, to keep the ratings high, he had Moa kill drug dealers and violent gang members. Wallace rationalized that he was doing good by getting these thugs off the streets, so he had become, in effect, a vigilante.
That's what he meant by a bullet in a grave could save...
Yeah.
Oh, that two-timing son of a gun.
That son of a gun. It did two good things at once. It got rid of a violent criminal, and it lined his pockets with wealth from the high ratings on the show.
And it made him famous.
But he got sloppy pretty quick. Viewers had started to notice that he was always there first, even before police. In addition, he never acted nervous that the murderer was still in the area. Moa accused Wallace of plotting at least 5 murders, all of which had been the subject of his TV show. He had gotten to the scene first and filmed the crime scene, a crime scene that he had set up with Moa.
Holy shit.
In addition, Moa accused Wallace of keeping drugs and money from the drug raids that he featured on Canal Livre. Now, you might think police wouldn't necessarily believe Moa, given that he was a hardened criminal, but they clearly had a vendetta against Wallace. He'd humiliated them. He'd gotten to crime scenes first. He publicly criticized them.
And
As
he
a
was
result,
police officer.
Exactly. They just went all in investigating Wallace. 20 years of shitting on the cops was going to bite him in the ass. It wasn't just a personal vendetta, however. Police had already been suspicious of Wallace and his Canal Livre crew. They couldn't figure out how he knew just where to be before they did. Every time he was showing up before police and contaminating crime scenes. One very suspicious case was where Canal Livre went to the scene of a murder. The body had been burned beyond all recognition and was still smoking and smoldering when the TV crew arrived. The reporter on site had known the man's name. His gender wasn't even visually recognizable because he was burned so completely. The reporter said that he'd been set on fire at night and that he had no bullet wounds. It wouldn't be possible for a reporter just arriving at the scene to have all that information.
Yeah.
Unless the murder had been planned ahead of time, of course. Another really sketchy case Canal Livre covered was a drug dealer who had been murdered by a rival dealer. When they arrived on the scene, the murder victim was still alive. He was moving around on the ground, crying and screaming in pain. Canal Livre's crew just stood there for over an hour and watched and filmed him die.
What?
They didn't call an ambulance. They didn't call the police.
What the fuck?
Not until he was dead. The man's mother tuned into that show, unaware she would watch her son die on television.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Moa just served as a confirmation of what police already suspected.
Yeah.
Wallace, of course, denied everything. He denied even knowing Moa. He denied ever hiring Moa as his bodyguard. However, police received anonymously a picture of Wallace and Moa chilling together in a pool at Wallace's house. Clearly, they knew each other. But Wallace told police he'd simply been confused because he knew Moa as Jorge. He still denied everything and said that Moa was his son Rafael's jiu-jitsu buddy. And the police didn't believe that shit. The investigation went on. The police created a task force they aptly named... Are you ready? Can you guess what they named the task force?
I can't, no.
The task force.
I would have never guessed that.
Because it's stupid.
It's the task force.
The task force. There were so many opportunities, but whatever. Wallace, meanwhile, continued to protest his innocence. He went on TV in long rants about what a good guy he was. He did elaborate speeches in Parliament decrying the crooked police and saying he was being set up. Wallace said that it was a conspiracy against him. The Parliament took his side, for a while anyway. Moa's wife then came forward. Her name was Mary Teresa. She said that everything Moa had said about Wallace was a lie, that it was coerced out of him by the brutal police who had beaten him and threatened him in interrogation. That it was true that Wallace was being set up. After his wife spoke out, Moa said it was true, what his wife said, and Moa even said that the photo of him in the pool with Wallace was a fake. Not long after making the public statement, Mary Teresa retracted it.
I thought so.
She said that Moa had been Wallace's security guard for years and that the first person she called after his arrest was Wallace. She begged Wallace for help. Wallace told her to fuck off, pretty much. He said if Moa wanted his help, he had to retract his statements that he'd made about Wallace. Only then would he help his former bodyguard.
So then he retracted his statement.
Of course.
Yeah.
The problem was simply this. It was plausible that the police had tortured Moa into giving a false confession. It was well known that they were corrupt, and it was also possible that it wasn't coerced and it was all true. It was too convenient for Wallace to always show up before police to murder scenes, and it was too convenient for the victims to always be drug dealers and criminals. So what was the truth? The police ended up having to hire bodyguards because of the threats made against them when the accusations against Wallace came to light. Because people were furious. Wallace was a national hero. However, it was clear that Wallace's people were the ones following police and making the threats. Yeah. At the jail where Moa was being held, someone set off some dynamite, likely to attempt to kill him. Moa survived the explosion. Another witness came forward and said they'd seen a man associated with Wallace kill a gang member. Days later, that same man was gunned down. Viewers of the show had already called Wallace out on hiring some sketchy people. He hired ex-dirty cops, former gang members, and former drug dealers. People would say that Wallace was being a bit of a hypocrite. But he said that these people had families that would suffer if they didn't have jobs. Man, he was good at spinning shit.
It's like everything he does, he has a quote-unquote rhyme and reason for it, but it doesn't make any sense.
No. The task force continued to build its case. They had gathered enough to arrest Wallace, but there was a law in Brazil that stated no elected official could be arrested.
Oh, lovely.
Right. In addition, they couldn't conduct a search of his house because of the law.
Wow.
The only way they could is if he was caught in the literal act of committing a crime. But there was someone close to Wallace that didn't have the protection of being a parliamentary member, and that was his son, Raphael. Several witnesses had seen Raphael working with Moa committing the murders. As a result, they were able to raid Wallace's house because Raphael lived there, and their warrants had only his name on them. So it was a loophole, and an effective one at that. Raphael was arrested after the police found illegal ammo, weapons, over $200,000 in unclaimed Brazilian cash. They also found a list of weapons and all the murders that Wallace was connected to.
A list. They wrote it down.
They sure did.
Oh, good. You kept a log. Wonderful.
Smart. Naturally, both Wallace and Raphael had an excuse for all of it. The bullets and weapons were from shooting competitions. The cash was savings in case of medical emergencies as they didn't have insurance, and Wallace had been plagued with poor health his literal entire life. The list of names had been prepared for Raphael's lawyer because Raphael and Wallace had been accused of setting up the murders. After the raids, the police had a body of a shooting victim exhumed because it was believed that Wallace had ordered the hit on this man. This was one that had been recorded on the Canal Livre show. The bullets in that body were the exact match to the spent casings in Raphael's room.
Holy shit.
In May of 2009, the police went after Wallace's staff. They conducted raids on their homes. 8 people were arrested for drug and weapons trafficking. These men were put in general population with the criminals they'd helped get arrested.
What happened to them?
A lot of them died. Don't have, specific numbers because there's some chaos coming pretty soon.
I would expect so.
Yes. It was looking like Wallace was going to face justice after all. The evidence became overwhelming. The heat was on, and Wallace's health started to decline, really rapidly. He was admitted to the hospital for stress-related health problems. As this was happening, the lead prosecutor presented a 500-page dossier of evidence against Wallace. The dossier maintained that he had put a hit on 5 to 19 drug dealers, ran a criminal organization, trafficked in drugs, harassed and beat witnesses, and the accusation that Wallace had attempted to get a hit on a federal judge after one of Wallace's associates was arrested. He was a mobster. That's the short of it.
Mm-hmm.
To respond to these allegations, Wallace was brought in on a stretcher to a meeting of the ethics committee to defend himself against the allegations. More theater, more BS. It wasn't as successful as a gamble as he'd hoped. In October of 2009, Wallace was impeached. He no longer had immunity. A warrant for his arrest was issued. Wallace immediately went on the run. Immediately. This resulted in a 4-day-long manhunt where police closed borders and raided homes to find him.
He comes in on a stretcher and then runs for it.
Yeah.
I love this.
Oh, he was very theatrical.
Yeah, of course, clearly.
Telenovela, everything.
Clearly.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So they eventually found him at a friend's house, and he voluntarily turned himself in on the condition that he be given a private cell and not be put in general population, obviously. A medical team ruled that he was not fit to attend the trial. He was, in truth, actually very ill. However, the lead prosecutor questioned him in the hospital, and Wallace went right back to denying everything again, including even knowing Moa. He said he had no idea who he was. On the 29th of March 2010, the prosecutors were going ahead with a juried trial, not just against Wallace, but his Canal Livre crew too, including the producer and Wallace's son. Most of the prosecutor's case hinged on the testimony of hardened criminals and drug dealers. But they had an ace in the hole. They had a star witness, a former reporter of Canal Livre, who was willing to testify against Wallace. Because it's more credible.
Right, absolutely.
Because she wasn't a, criminal. Or was she? Yeah. However, it's not clear if this witness was or was not coerced by the corrupt Brazilian police.
Right.
As the trial progressed, it really looked as though Wallace was going to face justice. Wallace had been in the hospital the entire duration of the trial, and on July 27th of 2010, Wallace Souza died of a heart attack in the hospital. He was 51 years old. And, at this point in the story, you think it's over.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
All his associates are going to go to jail. It's going to come out that he did set up all these hits.
Yeah.
That is he a bad guy or is he kind of like a Batman, a vigilante? Vigilante justice is never cool. It just isn't. Because we have due process for a reason. And I don't trust some TV show guy to have gotten all the evidence.
Especially when it's a drug war.
Yeah.
I don't think that murder over drugs is ever okay. They're just fucking drugs.
I give an exception to the cartel. I think the cartel should be, fucking nuked from orbit.
Well, yeah, because they murder over drugs. You know what
Yes,
I mean?
that's kind of was his point.
Yeah.
But, there's not a lot of nuance to vigilante justice. And I don't like an eye for an eye type of shit. Because, again, there's nuance in everything. And, I do believe even some murderers, not all, obviously not most, are be able to be rehabilitated. I believe that.
But still, it's not in your power. You're not God.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
And no one cares about that.
Wallace should not have the power over somebody else's life in any way, shape, or form.
Well, most people in Manaus saw Wallace as a martyr now. He died because of the stress of the trial. However, he'd had health problems since childhood, like thrombosis, pulmonary embolisms. And while the stress didn't help, it wasn't what killed him.
Yeah.
When it was time for Mao to take the stand, he changed his story again and said he'd been coerced by police and that Wallace was innocent. Now, if you want to think, why did he do that? He's about to get thrown in prison.
And Wallace has friends everywhere.
And in prison.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Raphael was sentenced to 9 years in prison for the murder and was released on parole after 6 years in 2015. In 2017, on New Year's Day, Mao was serving out his prison sentence, and at 4:08 p.m., there was a riot at the prison, and he was killed. The riot was led by a gang that had moved into Manaus after Wallace's death. 56 people were killed in this riot, including Moa. They were horrific, brutal murders. Moa had been set on fire, alive, in his cell. To this day, there's no way to know what the truth is. It's possible that the gang, the family of the North, had carried out the riot. That's who carried out the riot, that they were responsible for the conspiracy against Wallace, because many of them were former police officers. Wallace, during his TV career, had pressured police into going after this gang in particular. But the police were too afraid of them. And so most of the murder victims he captured on his show were members of this gang. Mm-hmm.
I was kind of wondering about that at the beginning.
The riot was a message
Yeah.
to Wallace's supporters.
Yeah.
So I'm really on the fence on this one, y'all.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't fucking know.
Right.
Because I think we got to go back to, because I watched the Netflix docuseries on this.
Mm-hmm.
I do recommend it. It goes into a lot more depth. I'm not going to go into that much depth here because, we don't have time. But I think what stands out to me the most is that Wallace was there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Too many times for it to be a coincidence, luck, or even an informant.
Absolutely.
I think he did set those murders up.
Absolutely.
And I think that he was after that gang in particular.
Or he could have been an integral part of that gang, and by outing them...
Oh, no, he was not a part of that gang.
Well,
no.
If they were mostly doing the murders, and he was involved in the murders...
No. He was setting up the hits for the gang members.
The gang members were the ones dying?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So you know what I think? I think it's a fucking combo meal on this one.
Yeah, it is.
I think it was a conspiracy against him, and it was true at the same time.
And it was his own conspiracy against them.
Yes. This case blew my mind.
Yeah, it's wild, and it's interesting that he died of a heart attack in a hospital, so there's no way of actually getting the information out.
He's gone, and his son is shut up. I think he's left Brazil from
and
last I read.
Female that was close by or something like that. There's always a girl that's close by that knows everything.
The reporter.
Yeah.
God, I had her name down, and I don't know why it's not in my notes, but she won't talk.
Yeah.
She won't talk.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. Was it true? Who knows? I think it's a little from here and a little bit from
I feel
there.
like all of it's true.
I feel like all of it's true.
Yeah, it just all combines together to make one full story.
I think it's all true. I think there was a conspiracy, but I think he did set up the hits.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So he could get the ratings up on his show and take out those gang members. I think he thought he was doing good.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to say about it.
It feels a lot like, what's that show? Dexter.
Yes,
you know I mean?
He is called the Brazilian Dexter often because of that.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And a lot of people in comments on articles and stuff have made that comparison. And or Batman, because he was rich. Mm-hmm. He was a popular kind of almost celebrity, and yet he had this other darker side. And I agree with that. Mm-hmm. I didn't intend on covering this, but it just drew me in. I was like,
yeah, no, it's fascinating.
I think of one of the craziest cases we've covered.
Yeah.
And I could have gone into every one of the murders that was captured on screen.
Right.
They're all the same.
Right.
They were just shot a bunch of times and died horribly on film.
It's like he just went through a list of gang members and was like, you, then you, then you, then you, and I'll be there at these places at these times. Why the fuck did his son have the shell casings from a murder in his room?
Because he killed him.
But then he kept them?
Because he's a dumbass.
Because
people who attain this sort of wealth and popularity and fame.
Yeah, they feel like they're untouchable.
Well, he was, though. He had immunity, and I guess it didn't occur to him that they'd go after his son. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so, as a result, they got sloppy.
Yeah.
And that's what did him in. But, I mean, it doesn't matter. He would have died anyway.
It's just so interesting that he made, like, a TV show about it. Like, that's fucked up. You have, like, full evidence of all of your crimes right there. And exploited his own crimes. Like, that's so fucking ballsy.
It is. You gotta hand it to him, man.
Yeah.
You gotta hand it to him.
Yeah, like, look what I did.
I did that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. It's a lot of hubris, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So I want to know what y'all think. Please come on to our Discord and tell me what you think of this case. I know it's a little shorter, but I just had to share this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I
see
do
why
recommend.
you thought it wasn't real. Like, or how...
I thought it was bullshit.
It didn't feel real.
No.
Doesn't
Several
feel
times
real.
with the research on this, I was like, oh, come on. They made this shit. No, this all happened. And Killer Ratings is the name of the series on Netflix.
That's a good
Name.
title.
Yeah, for real. I was like,
fuck yeah.
Clever producers,
Yeah,
clever.
yeah.
So you guys might want to check that out because it
Absolutely.
goes into a little more depth than I can go into here.
And gives camera footage that we don't have.
But I will warn you that the footage is rough.
Yeah.
It is rough to look at. Yeah. So, take care of yourself. If you can't handle it, don't watch it.
Yeah.
But yeah, join our Discord, join our Patreon. Like I mentioned last time, I'm restructuring things a little bit. There's going to be video on Patreon by the end of this month.
Okay.
By the end of this month, me and Maris are going to do some videos. So I am taking several courses on Adobe Premiere Pro. So that's a new thing I'm learning.
She's learning things.
I'm tired of
With her
learning.
big old brain. So many wrinkles.
That's why my head's so big.
Yeah.
That's why I can't wear no hats. I want to wear a cute hat. I can't. I have to order them special. I got a big ass head.
It can't be the 7 feet of long, luscious, thick hair that you have either.
Yes, it is beautiful.
It is gorgeous.
Yeah, it's nice. I don't even do anything to it. It's just regular old suave shampoo and conditioner.
It just grow like that.
It just grow like that out my head. So y'all join our Patreon. I would tell you what we offer, but I am restructuring everything. But it's great. There's already nearly 200 episodes you haven't heard on there if you're not a member. That's $5 tier. And that's the tea. I'm still thinking about what I want to do for that tier. I do little things all the time. And then I'm going to be covering the Gypsy Rose Blanchard shit this week on Patreon. Not the case itself. I don't think anyone on earth doesn't know what happened there.
Just a discussion.
I'm going over the text messages between Gypsy Rose Blanchard and Nicholas Godejohn. And then I want you guys to decide for yourself
I
who should
have
still be in jail or not.
Theories and stuff. Anyway, we'll talk later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unpleasant.
Yeah.
But it was really highly requested, and I didn't want to do just the same old thing. Me and Maris have even considered a dramatic reading of the text messages for the cringe. It's quite strong. I think we'll do that for and then that's the tea. And then I'll be more serious about it, because it is a serious case. Somebody died.
Yeah, and it's fucked up.
It's fucked up.
It's really fucked up what
I
they
don't
did.
think she should be going on Instagram and telling me what beauty products she's using.
I haven't.
Girl,
I haven't.
it's gross. I don't think that we should give fame to somebody. Was she a victim of horrific child abuse? Absolutely.
Yes, but most murderers were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So was I.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
My mom abused me in every way you can. I didn't kill nobody. I didn't kill her
That's
ass.
right. That's right.
I didn't just seduce a mentally challenged person to do my dirty work. I don't know. But we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to hear that, I totally understand. Feel free to skip that episode. Because I got my own little hot take, and you can even yell at me if you want, but I will cry.
No, you won't.
No, I'll just get pissy.
Yeah.
And then I'll brood.
Or ornery.
I do get ornery.
Yeah, she does.
Hey, but here's something else I want to talk to you about. Now, I don't know about y'all. You like reading spicy stuff, don't you, my little friends out there in the computer land?
Smut is really making a rise right now.
And not just in the pants, huh?
Oh.
Yeah?
Oh.
Yeah, you like that?
Yeah.
Anyway, me and Maris write smut. all kinds of smut for every taste. Well, probably not every taste, but most tastes. Very fun. We also write all kinds of books, and right now we're looking for readers for free. Do you want to read our shit for free? We have a Discord where you can do that, and you can meet other cool people and talk about books. Also, if you're a writer or if you're an artist, are you an editor? Get in there. Come on, because people need those services, and yes, paying. They will pay you for them. This is not for free. But what is for free is our writing, because we want people to read it. So that's called a beta reader. It goes through you, then it goes through me and gets another edit, and then it goes out into the world, but you get to read it for free, and all you got to do is tell me what you think. And it doesn't just have to be compliments, although it can be. But anyway, I'll have the link for that Discord. It is a permanent invite, so if you're listening to this like 2 months from now, it's still good. Click on it. If all you can do, though, to support this podcast is listen, well, thank you. It's for you anyway.
Yeah.
And if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe and notification bell and leave a comment that says, Lillian, you don't smell. And if you do, you probably smell like flowers. Because it's true.
She makes soap.
Yeah. I haven't made it any while, though. I've
That's
been too
fine.
busy.
It's fine.
But I love you guys. Thank you for hanging out today. And we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Us on your social media platform of choice. Linktree/Cruelty has all of the links. Check out our Patreon for exclusive episodes, merch, ad-free episodes, live ghost hunts, and much more. Please be sure to subscribe. New episodes are uploaded weekly. Thank you so much. See you next time. Music and production by Libby.